All right, here we are. Welcome to a new year, new podcast. Well, not a new podcast, but it is a podcast, so that's a step in the right direction. Um,
I feel like we were saying this last year. We did
yeah,
one on.
I think we were pretty good the second half of last year, though. We were
we
relatively
were.
consistent.
We were.
I will get one more in before when do you go back to school?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. It could be tomorrow, and I really don't know. But I assume in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's it. That would make sense.
So,
Yeah, so we'll get one
um,
more in before you go back to break.
mhm.
Before we go back to school, and then we'll get another one in. We'll get three in January. We'll get one before we go back to break, and we'll get one more at the very end of January.
Oh wait, hold up. Never mind. I don't start till January 22nd,
Oh
so
wow,
I still have 3 more weeks.
yeah.
So
So we get
we
two more
can get
in,
two in.
and then we'll get like a preview of Duke, North Carolina in early February, um,
Okay.
and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay.
I mean, so I guess since the last time we talked, at least on the podcast, Adam and I both attended a big UMass victory at home.
Yep.
Um,
Caught on the jumbotron.
yep. They what should have been a real easy win turned into a little bit of a nail biter.
Yep.
It wasn't upset. They well not upset, but it was an upset according to Ken Palm in the net rankings. Um, it really should have been an upset, but they had some good moments and bad moments.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but so couple things to talk about, and I don't know if we should start with or end with it because last time we tried, we got super off track, not off track, but just kept going. But I think it's hard to have a podcast and not talk about the retirement. Well, I guess the stepping down and I guess presumed retirement just because he's about 75, I think, of Jim Larranga. Um, it's I don't know if it would have been as of a it would have been a news story. I don't know if it would have made as big of an impact if I'm terrible with names. Um, Tony Bennett.
Tony
If Tony
Bennett.
Bennett had
Yep.
done it. Because now
Mm,
you've got two high profile guys, same league,
yep.
have had success. These aren't bad coaches. Both stepping down for essentially the same reason. And Coach K, there's another guy there too. I want to say there's one more. Um, but a couple of guys, Coach K didn't sort of come out and say, "Okay, I can't do NIL," but he definitely did say, "I see the league going in a direction that I I don't know about."
Hmm.
Um, I get so with Larinaga, um, how much do you think this NIL? Is it an old guy who um, just kind of can't keep up with young stuff? Is it is it the fact that like the team just sucked and
Mm.
there was pressure to say, okay, like listen, we know you're gonna retire at some point. Let's just speed up
Mm.
the process. Let's move you out and let's get someone else in here.
Okay, so yes, they sucked. Um, I mean, it's the NIL is real. I mean, he said, after we went to the Final Four, we lost 8 guys to the
Yep.
portal, and it doesn't matter what team you are, you lose 8 guys, it's really hard to come back from that.
Mm-hmm.
And guys are going to see that they can get money elsewhere, they're going to bolt, and that doesn't leave you with a ton to work with. I mean, really, the only guy on 2 guys on Miami. Actually, I wouldn't even say two. One guy is Nigel Pack. That's the only really, I
Yeah.
guess, relevant name.
Yeah.
Jalil Batey is going to be relevant in a couple of years.
Yeah, because they lost two guys. Well, Isaiah Wong, I can't
Wong,
remember
yep,
if
that
he was a if he needed to leave. I don't think he at the very least he had one more year. I'm guessing. I don't think I think Isaiah Wong was probably a junior
right.
last year. He
But
probably
I
had
remember,
junior, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I remember he entered the transfer portal
Yep.
and he couldn't go anywhere, and so he had to come back.
Yep.
But at that point, it's like he just wanted the money, so that was
Because
destroyed.
you lose Isaiah Wong and was it Poplar?
Yes.
Um,
Yep. Wooga.
I
Yep.
mean, that's two of the best players on
And
the team.
O'Meara, Norchad
Yep, yeah,
O'Meara to
yeah. I
Baylor.
mean, like not only you're replacing guys, like you're replacing your best guys,
Right.
and Nigel Pack is a good basketball player, but he's not a great team player, and he's
Right.
not he's someone that's going to drop 50 on you in like a pickup game of basketball because he can just score the
Right.
ball.
Right. Yeah, I want to say it's a combination of they weren't good, and I think something was going on internally, and he was just like, listen, I can't do this anymore because the uh, it's what happens to all of us. I'm sure the money went to these kids' heads, and they decided that he was an old school coach, older guy, and what did he know? And they were kind of
Mhm.
going to do things their own way, and I think he was like, you know what, I'm not going to do this, and it's time for me to step away. And I mean, give him credit, to have the humility to step away, and a great coach. Some great things wherever he went. And if this is it, or if this is not it, I think we're gonna remember Jim Larranga as one of the intelligent basketball minds of the past 20 years, and wherever he went, he had success.
Yeah, I think it's two things. You mentioned the money going to their heads, and I was going to ask that.
Hmm.
You have to think with NIL, is this a money thing, or um is it just an ego sort of thing with these
Hmm.
kids where it's you there's no way to I'm gonna say it's just the money that's out there is the kids almost aren't mature enough to
Hmm.
have this much money, and
Hmm.
and they don't even all they see is dollar signs, and they're getting distracted. Right? It's like in the college football bowl games where the guys or
Hmm.
the ones that don't make the big games, they decide they're gonna not play. Like Duke's
Hmm.
quarterback, decided to transfer and decided he's not
Hmm.
going to play because he doesn't want to get hurt and like risk anything.
Right.
So you wonder, like, at what point are you going to have these guys that are saying, okay, coach doesn't like me. I'm only getting 15 minutes a game. I think I should be getting
Right.
30. I'm just not going to play the rest of the season.
Right. And I, what, I think that's the thing now, because you're getting paid by all these people to play, and in your mind, you think to yourself, well, I'm getting paid, I'm a really good player,
Yeah,
and if he's not gonna put me in, then I'm not gonna give my best effort. And I think it just all kind of spiraled downward like that. And unfortunately, it left him in a very difficult position, which is, I mean, now that this isn't the first coach that we've seen this happen to, I think it's a glaringly obvious thing that NIL is something we need to look at and something we
hmm
need to control, because your greatest basketball minds are being forced out of the game
yeah,
because of something like this, and it's like, really,
yeah.
that's not how this should be going.
It makes it really hard with so few people on a basketball team to
Hmm.
build a team, right? On a
Right.
football team, there's so many guys, and people can kind of leave, and you plug guys in stuff. And on a basketball team, there's so few guys, and
Hmm.
for guys like Jim Larranaga and Tony Bennett, who are kind of older guys and have systems put into place, for them to not know if guys are going to be there year in year out, right? Like Con Knipple is, I think he might actually come back at this point. At the beginning of the season, he started off hot. People are like, okay, this guy's going to leave, and that was never the plan, right? So like
Hmm.
when John Shire signs Con Knipple, he probably thinks there's a 60% chance I get Con Knipple back next year, and he plans on that
Hmm.
in terms of recruiting and how he develops people and how he works Con into the system. And
Hmm.
for these other guys, it's like how do you coach a team when you just have
Hmm.
absolutely no idea if people are going to come back, or and how do you build a defensive scheme or a team's identity when it just takes. So you mentioned 8 guys leaving and bringing all these new guys in. You got to, how do you build that cohesiveness if these guys aren't going to
Hmm.
stay for a year?
Hmm. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's very stressful. I can imagine for a coach, um, to build your team year in and year out,
Yeah,
and I mean, it's got to be a little frightening as a coach as your season winds down if you're not an NCAA tournament team. Who am I going to have back
yeah,
next year? Who should I play? Who should I kind of develop? Because wherever the money calls, kids are going to go.
yeah.
And, if you're a mid major or a non power, well, power four conference team now, it's like you're automatically at a deficit
Mm-hmm.
because you just don't have the resources, money to offer. Um, and that ultimately should not be the driving factor for, you know, coaches resigning, being fired, because it's tough enough to win games at the Division 1 basketball level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so if all your players aren't there with you and they don't have your back and they're not bought in, then I mean, you can forget about having a winning season.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you need, like you said, you need some sort of structure. And
Hmm.
I the structure part scares me a little bit with, so like Duke just I don't know if they officially signed him yet, but Duke's going to sign a new quarterback because, like I said, their guy left. So Duke's getting a quarterback from
Hmm.
not Ole Miss. They're playing Ole Miss, but some SEC team, I think Mississippi State or something like that.
Hmm.
And the collective, the Duke collective, they're the ones that signed this guy. It wasn't Duke that signed him. So they signed this guy for like 2 years, like I don't know, like either $4 or $8 million.
Okay.
But that was the deal they made with him. You're coming here for 2 years, and we're giving you however much money. And I think
Hmm.
similar to the pros, like you need like all these deals now. You need to structure it where you're guaranteeing people are there for 2 or 3 years, and you have to start. I mean, we're almost getting back to a scholarship system essentially, right? Like if you forget what, like take these good players out for a second. Um, like take the runners that I've coached that are in college right now on scholarship,
Hmm.
and if one of them doesn't perform, they're not good enough, right? They're going to lose
Right.
money. They might like
Hmm.
lose. So the scholarship is them truly getting paid at that
Right.
point. We don't tend to
Hmm.
think of that as like if as like a Duke basketball player. We tend to think, okay, this person's just going to school, but like
Right.
really, like when Con Knipple agrees to go to Duke, he
Hmm.
kind of signed like a 4 year contract because that scholarship is a 4 year contract basically. I mean, you can
Right.
break it, sure, but like all we're doing now is like saying, okay, you can come to school for free, and we're going to sign you to a 4 year contract for $12 million or whatever.
Yep. Yeah. It's uh, it's definitely like you said a tricky business, and I feel like now you have a good idea as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Who's one and done, and that kind of going off that contract. Like you take a guy like Zion,
Mm-hmm.
who you're like, oh, he's one and done, and then you take a guy like Tyrese Proctor, who you're like, well, we'll probably have him for 2-3 years. We know that we can develop him, and that helps you as a coach, add certain pieces into your program. Because honestly, I truly think the best teams in college basketball have a mix of, either freshmen and transfers or guys that have grown from freshman to their senior year in the program, and then you add one or two guys each year in the transfer portal, and that way you get to keep your core while also adding the
Mm-hmm.
pieces around you. I think those are the best teams in
Yeah,
college basketball that we're seeing right now.
yeah, yeah. I think you need those transfers, but I think you don't want to go because I this might be like I don't know, utopian of me or something, but I like to
Hmm.
think that there should be a pride in the team that you play for, and
Hmm.
so I like to think that the guys that return for a second year at that same program are a little bit better than a transfer you're going to get, simply because my hope is that they just like the program more, right? Like they're like locked in, like this is my team, this is my school, I want to like win now.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you would think, but
Yeah,
that's not always the case,
yeah.
as we're seeing now. So,
And then I don't know the money, like Caleb Foster has been demoted. He was starting at the beginning of the year. He is
yes.
now potentially. I'm doing my math in my head. He might be the ninth guy on the depth chart right now,
Yep.
because first guy in is Malik Brown, second guy
Yep.
in is Isaiah Evans, and
Hmm.
then Mason Gills is gaining often more than Caleb
Yep.
Foster is,
Yes.
and I like Kale Foster. Kale Foster said all the right things when he came back in the beginning of the season. He hosts the Duke podcast, and I think 10 years ago, right? He probably, or 20 years ago, he stayed. Well, maybe he goes pro, right? But he stays for another year
Hmm.
and gets even better and everything. But now, just with like money and like people talking and even like there's some guys too, which I think we forget sometimes, that there's some guys that are great in high school that are not going to go to the
And
NBA,
just, yeah.
like uh, Jeremy Roach may never go to the NBA. He's just small.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of those guys have, obviously that the NBA is the hope,
Yeah.
but they also can find a home in the G League.
Hmm.
Um,
Like Jaleel
over
Okafor's doing.
He had 38
38 points.
points the other day. Did you know you can actually, so if you get the G League app on your phone, you can watch his games for free.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
I'm gonna have to watch me some Jaleel. I love Jaleel Okafor.
So if you download the G League app on your phone, you can watch the games for free.
What bothers me about Jaleel Okafor is, let me look this up now. We've talked about this on the podcast before. Um, is the amount of people that uh, that call him a bust,
Hmm.
because I don't think it's fair to say that a guy in in his freshman, or in, yeah, I guess his freshman, in his rookie season, 17 and a half points, 7 rebounds, and assists, right? But 17 and a half points, seven rebounds. His sophomore year, or his second year, uh, time or minutes went down. He only played 22 minutes a game. He averaged
Hmm.
12 points, 5 boards, but he was on a team with I think Embiid, and Nerlens Noel, and maybe one other guy. They were just stocking centers on that 76ers team.
Hmm.
And so the time was going down a little bit. But here's a guy, right? He played for the Pelicans for a little bit. He was scoring, 8 and 5. So career, he's off of 20 minutes a game. He's a 10.5 rebound guy. If given more opportunity, he's easily like a career 15-7, 15-8 guy with an assist and a block. Super talented on offense, just doesn't really play defense.
Doesn't really, doesn't at all.
So here's my thing. Look, the I was looking at a game the other day. I forget who it was. One, I don't really watch the NBA, and
Hmm.
the but some team was down by like 20 or 30 points going into the fourth quarter, and they
Hmm.
outscored the other team like 50 to 20, whatever, and they came
Hmm.
back and won. They scored 50 points in a quarter. Are
Hmm.
you telling me that that team is great at offense, or the other team just doesn't play defense?
Probably my biggest guess is just doesn't play defense.
It just like I don't. There's got to like Joel Embiid. He's fat and slow.
But you can't say that he is better than Jalil Okafor.
These, didn't that real tall guy, that real tall goofy guy that was like 7'4", it has like a real short name, like the goofy white guy. Um, oh, what's
The
his
real
name?
short name.
Oh, Goofy
I don't know who
NBA.
you're talking about. Zach Eady?
No, that keeps playing. Oh, Boban Marjakovic or something. Who it was?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but he was tall.
yeah, this Boban guy. He played in the NBA, I think.
Yeah.
And that guy was trash, right? Like I didn't. Guy can't be better than Joey Okafor.
You are the biggest Jalil Okafor cheerleader I've ever met.
That is by far my favorite basketball team of all time. To the 2015 Duke basketball team, by far.
Because they won.
No, I love Justice Winslow.
Oh, wait. Jalil Okafor already played today. They lost in overtime. He had 18 points and 13 rebounds.
He
He's
probably
on the. Probably what?
he's frustrated. He probably could have had 40, but he's just like, what's the point?
He plays again on January 4th. When's January? Saturday.
All right, I'm gonna watch it.
Saturday at 2.
I might
Get the.
even live stream my reaction.
Oh, God.
All right, so
Circling back.
is all right. So the next thing on our list is Kansas a bad basketball team?
No.
Is Kansas a good basketball team?
Well, yeah, they're a good basketball team. They're not playing their best
Okay,
basketball right now.
is the Kansas can is Kansas still have a top three odds? Would you put Kansas in your top five for favorites to win the championship? If you had to pick five
Uh,
teams, is Kansas in the top five? They're not in
no,
mine.
they're not in mine. They're 9-2. They're 9-3.
Now, so that brings up the other question, right? Is West Virginia is really good? I mean, West Virginia beat them without two of their top scorers. At in,
West Vir-
I think the biggest thing about Kansas is they lost at home and they never lose at home.
right. Um, okay, so it's concerning that Kansas lost, even though West Virginia didn't play Tucker DeVries. Um, and West Virginia did not have, I don't remember the other guy's name, but yeah, they struggled to uh, score. Frankly, in the first half, they had 20 points at halftime. They are just everybody besides Hunter Dickinson and Zeke Mayo right now is not playing good
Are you
and
looking at
up
their
to standard.
schedule
Yes.
like on ESPN?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't ask you this question. I was going to ask you out of the 12 games, how many uh, how many of those 12 games do you think Hunter Dickinson was the leading scorer for the team in?
Hunter Dickinson is their team leader
But
at
he's only led them in scoring twice.
yes.
Is that a problem?
Well, it's either going to be him or Zeke Mayo who leads them in scoring. But yes, I think that's a problem. I think the trick is up, and everybody knows that needs to play through Hunter Dickinson to
Yeah.
win. So as long as you keep Hunter Dickinson semi-maintained, you have a pretty good shot to win. And like you said, I think the most concerning thing is that they lost at home because they never, ever lose at home.
Hmm.
And I, everybody was talking about how Kansas has a good bench and Kansas is, deeper this year. But if you can't win in league play, then you can forget going to the tournament. And I know that they're going to the tournament, they're going to get their wins in league play, but it's not like this is an easy league
Yeah.
anymore.
That's. I mean,
I mean,
I'm looking at the schedule. They're 9-3. I'm thinking they could potentially be 11-5. Beat
it could, yeah. I
UCF,
mean,
Arizona State, and then lose at Cincy and at Iowa State.
yep. And then they Houston, Baylor, Iowa
Yeah.
State, Colorado. Utah's not an easy place to play either.
BYU.
Colorado, they beat UConn this year. Like
Yep.
it's not an easy league. So, they better figure it out quickly because I don't think anybody expected that to happen. Um, it's concerning because West Virginia did not have their top scorer. Kansas could not score the basketball, and they've struggled a lot on national TV. To be frankly, uh, to the point. So it's I'm not concerned, but I certainly am surprised that Kansas is not playing to the level that they could be playing at with everybody that is surrounding Hunter Dickinson.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not concerned, but I would say I don't. I take that back. I don't know. I think Hunter Dickinson is so offensively skilled that they could struggle during the season and still go on a run in the tournament with him. Um,
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see if somebody else can emerge besides Hunter Dickinson. Zeke Mayo's getting there. Um, But if he can be that number two guy who can go get a bucket after Hunter Dickinson and everybody can give him the confidence, I they're gonna be all set.
yeah. Well, I told you I watched I watched UCLA Gonzaga. Did you watch UCLA Gonzaga or any of that? Like, did you see the
Um,
you see the end where Nemhart missed the free throw and then missed the three, like a half court heave at the end?
no, but I did hear.
So my
I
issue,
honestly I was not expecting
he
UCLA to win that game, even though
yeah, I
UCLA is
mean,
good.
it was relatively back and forth, and then Nemhart did choke. Like it looked like UCLA had it wrapped up, and then Nemhart drove into the lane, and UCLA stupidly fouled him. He made the shot, so maybe like 5 seconds left, and he's got to make the free throw, tie it up. Completely short arms it. They
Mm,
foul. UCLA goes back up by three, and the part that I had
huh,
issue with, and the announcer annoyed me, is they ran an inbounds play to get the ball to Nemhart, and he shot it from half court with like 2.5 seconds left. And they're
mm,
like, "Oh man, he could have taken like three more steps." Like he panicked,
yeah,
but clearly they were going to foul him. And he
yeah,
was like, "I know I have probably just as good of a shot of making a half court shot as I
right.
do of making a free throw and then missing on purpose and us being able to get the rebound
Hmm.
and putting it back in." So I didn't really
Yep,
have a problem with it because I mean, in that situation, teams are going to try to foul you.
right.
And I mean, if you're a decent college athlete, like yeah, the odds of hitting a running half court shot aren't great, but they're also not
Mm,
like the worst odds in the world.
right.
I mean, like think about as a basketball player, how many times after practice you scoot around shooting half court shots.
Hmm. Yeah, like all of the. I mean, geez, you know, it, guys do that a decent amount, even before practice too. And it's like, when you're anybody can make that shot,
Hmm.
and UCLA probably was going to play the foul game. Um, but hey, that was a good win for
Yep.
UCLA.
And not a bad loss for Gonzaga, but
Right.
Gonzaga's. I mean, there's not a lot of great. wins in the WCC,
Yep.
and they're not looking fantastic, right? You know, they just beat Pepperdine, but not
Yep.
by a ton.
Hmm.
Besides that, right, they lost to UConn, they lost to Kentucky,
Yep.
they lost to UCLA, they beat Indiana, who hasn't been great.
Hmm.
They lost to West Virginia. Um, really, their good win. They did get Baylor. All right, so
Hmm.
they got Baylor and they got San Diego State.
Yep. Which are two good wins.
Yep, yep, yeah. Like they are going to get into the tournament, and as long as they
Hmm.
have a decent league
Right.
run, they should
Hmm.
get into the tournament with. They probably needed. I don't know how good St. Mary's is this year. If they're as good as they usually are, maybe if they play at St. Mary's, that'll be a decent win.
Hmm. Yep.
Um,
I think they're another team that's on the bubble.
yeah, so winning
Um,
that away game, that's helpful.
right.
So I could see them still pulling if they were to go undefeated in their league,
Hmm.
maybe they're able to get like a 3-4 seed.
Yeah.
Um, but they
Which is totally possible too.
yeah, but they could have benefited from just one of those games, Kentucky, UConn, or UCLA. Even the
Yep.
UCLA one, just getting that gets
Hmm.
you a little more.
Right.
But it's interesting because you look at these uh like mid-major teams that are like 13 seeds that go on these runs, and you're like,
Hmm.
oh wow, like look at these people upsetting stuff. But then you see like a Gonzaga or whatever get like a 6 seed, and you're like, oh my goodness, they're a 6 seed. But like
Right.
if you're a good team that had like some bumps in the road, right? Maybe you have some injuries or like, yeah,
Hmm.
right. They lost by 3 to UCLA and 7 to UConn. So it doesn't mean like
Right.
they're a bad team. They just lost some
Hmm.
games. It's like,
Right.
yeah, 6 seed, you could still crush teams. Like you're still good.
Right. Exactly.
Um, but I watched after that. I watched San Diego State, Utah State, and that was a fun game.
Okay.
And I came away impressed by both teams. San Diego State was pretty dominant. They've got a real good defense. It's a low scoring game.
Hmm.
Utah State came roaring back. They hit a couple big shots at the end. I San Diego State, one of their best players. His emotion, he is a little emotionally immature, which made me nervous come tournament time. He fouled out and just kind of
Hmm.
he threw a Grayson Allen, kind of temper tantrum his way over to the bench. And, well, he'd probably be insulted by that because he didn't temper tantrum as much as Grayson did. uh,
Nowhere near as much.
but I liked both of them. And you don't get to watch a lot of Mountain West stuff because usually it's like a Thursday night at like 11 o'clock. Um, but these past couple of years, they've been knocking on the door. They're getting all these teams in. They tend to kind of bloat a little bit early on, and people question how good is Mountain West really. I think, San Diego State the past couple of years, in the past decade, they've made a couple runs, Final
Hmm.
Four, Elite Eight
Yep.
stuff. Um, but it's an interesting league because you're I don't think you're ever gonna get like um I don't know, like a good player from like a Duke or a Kentucky to like a starter is not going to go to San Diego State. But
Hmm.
sometimes I wonder who's the guy that scored 30 for UMass yesterday. Who's their best player?
Diggins. Diggins. Was it
No,
Diggins?
no.
Curry?
Is it like a Rasul?
Yeah, Rasul
Or
Diggins. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's who it was.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so a guy like that, right, could leave. Not that he's better than UMass, but he could go to San Diego State where he's surrounded by guys that are as good as him, and
Right.
now all of a sudden he's a 15 point per game player on a really good
Right.
team.
Hmm. Yeah. Um. So Guess what my least favorite college basketball league is?
WCC or no, the Mountain West.
It's the Mountain West. Every single year, I pick somebody in my bracket, and besides San Diego State, the rest of the league just chokes. So I'm never ever picking another Mountain West team besides San Diego State to win in my bracket. Like San Diego State is going to show up every day because I've been there in the tournament before. But everybody's always like, New Mexico, Colorado State, they're going to make a run. And then I feel like everybody puts them going into the Sweet 16 in their brackets and they just choke, like you said, first round. San Diego State, yes, plug them in for a tournament win because they're going to be there. But these past few years, everybody else besides them, I am not convinced that the Mountain West is going to break through come tournament time.
Utah State is wow, look at that. Utah State. I wonder how they do net rankings. Utah State is 24th right now in the net. They're 12-1. They're 4-0. 4-0 in quad ones is Utah State. 2-1 in quad two, and then undefeated in other quads. Arizona is one spot ahead of Utah State in the net.
Arizona sucks.
Guess what Arizona's record is in quad one games?
Probably like 2-5.
0-5. How are they? How are they 23rd in? And they guess how? So Arizona's 23rd. They haven't won a quad one game. Guess how many quad two games they've won?
Two.
One. They beat one good team all year. They are 1-5 against teams in like the top 100, and they're ranked
Yeah.
23rd in the net.
Maybe their defense.
Me, I don't know. Texas A&M
But
21st.
yeah,
This is a
we're
good
for
year for
real
Texas
this year.
A&M.
But you know what? I'm gonna be quiet because we're just gonna fly under the radar. Um, and when it's March, come tournament time, we can finally talk about them. We're just gonna quietly fly under the radar. We
Um,
have the difference between I will say the difference between this year and years past is that we have non-conference wins to
mhm.
back us up, and they're good non-conference wins too. I mean, not to say like that, like Nebraska or
Yeah,
Ohio State were good, but like when you beat Purdue and Texas Tech and all those other good teams,
Duke had a
um,
big win against number 195 in
come
the
on, we
net,
all knew that
Virginia
was
Tech.
coming. Jaden Shoot, what a return! Three
Oh
points.
man, he struggled. He's been playing okay, and he struggled. Um, Boston College 209th in the net.
Yeah, they suck. Remember, like a year ago, when we were like, Boston
Yes,
College, maybe they can put it together in like 2-3 years.
I
Nope,
they've been trending upward, and they're terrible right now.
terrible. They're really bad. Jaden Shoot, 3 points on like 1 of 6.
Yeah, it was. I mean, no one from Virginia Tech could really shoot anyways. I mean, they're offensively challenged, which is weird because for a while Virginia Tech was great in offense because that's sort of what Mike Young was priding himself on down in Wofford.
Hmm.
Um, man, I'm very knowledgeable today. I've got
You
my
are.
Mike Young and Wofford. I only know Mike Young's from Wofford because I don't know if you ever met Shannon. Um,
No.
Shannon was one of the first girls I ever coached at Chicopee back in like 2000. I don't know, probably like 2012 or something like that.
Hmm.
But she went to Wofford. She ended up being a real good runner, so she ran at
Okay.
Wofford. Um, so I followed along the program a little bit, and that's when Mike Young
Mm.
was there.
Okay.
Um,
You're just dropping your little hints of knowledge, sprinkling them in.
um, but yeah, that Virginia Tech. I mean, the ACC sucks. Duke does have. They are going. Maybe it's at home. They've got SMU. I can't remember if they're going to SMU or it's at home, but SMU might actually be the second ranked ACC
Yeah.
team. I think they are at
I
30th.
need Duke to win that game because SMU is currently taking Missouri spot in the NCAA tournament, which I think is ridiculous. But
Where's North Carolina at in bracketology?
um, North Carolina is they're firmly in, not on the bubble. As well, actually, they're actually not firmly in. They're approaching bubble status. They're a 10 seed right now.
Yeah, that's all based off that UCLA win. If they hadn't
So they
stolen
would,
back against UCLA, they'd be done.
yeah. So, uh, what's his face? Lenardi has them playing Utah State first round. And then if they win, they would have to play Oregon, which is, but I will say, what's it? Louisville is on the bubble,
Are they really?
um, on the next four out. I don't, Missouri, who, also Penn State, like, why are they in?
Yeah. West Virginia is a lot. I mean, I went. When was this updated? Updated
Uh,
December 31st. Oh, so yes, I'm surprised West Virginia is only a last four bye right now. I would have thought they would have been a little more firmly in.
um, yeah, I am puzzled about the Missouri, uh, being the first team out. Um, I had them in, and who is it that I'm sorry to say it, but I had swapped SMU out because when you look at SMU's schedule, I'm not really impressed by any of the
Yeah.
wins. And it's not like Missouri's had a lot of impressive wins, but I think the check mark of the Kansas win, um, I think puts them in as the last team
Yeah.
in right now.
Yeah. SMU and Stanford, I feel like are kind of in similar positions where they both
Right.
have good records, but they just really
Hmm.
haven't beaten anybody
Right. And
or
you
even
know,
played anybody really.
right. And it's the same thing with um, Arizona State.
Yeah.
You know, uh, like they haven't had any impressive wins. Whereas I'm fine with the Nebraska one because they knocked off Creighton and they've beat Indiana and then they won their tournament in Hawaii. Um, I'm surprised Louisville is on the bubble. I had them
Yeah.
completely. I mean, sorry, Arizona. I had Arizona completely off the bubble.
Those are some interesting teams on the next four out. BYU, Creighton, Arizona. Like those are teams that, especially Creighton, Arizona. I mean, to see them, I mean, it makes sense, but like just to see those teams on the outside looking in is pretty shocking.
I was surprised that BYU is out. I was surprised they were out, and then I was surprised that who was it? It might be St. Mary's. I had St. Mary's in because I think that if you're gonna put Nebraska in, you have to put also St. Mary's in because St. Mary's beat Nebraska. So my last four in would have been. I mean, I love the SEC, but uh, I'm gonna need a little more from Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I was actually
Although they,
it's strange. I was actually going to ask you. I don't know why I was thinking about this yesterday. I could have looked it up, but seeing Vanderbilt there, I was in the car yesterday, and for some reason, was thinking I had to ask you: does Jerry Stackhouse still coach there, or does he get fired?
got fired.
Okay.
They what's his name from? Oh, Mark Byington from shoot. They upset Wisconsin last year, and they went. They played Duke when Duke beat them.
Oh, mm,
Uh,
is that JMU?
yes, JMU, Mark Byington. I mean, Vanderbilt's 12-1. My last four would have been Nebraska, Vanderbilt, um, Missouri. Okay, and I'll put uh, St. Mary's in for now.
It feels like
That's what I.
Northwestern is always on the bubble every year.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the only. I mean, they have an Illinois win. Um, They missed an opportunity with Dayton, missed an opportunity with Iowa. Um, so we'll see. I mean, it shakes up. I think Louisville can vault themselves with a win tonight against North Carolina. Um, but again, as we know, the world of what ifs
Hmm.
in college basketball can go any direction.
I think last time we talked, you said Tennessee was the best. You're like they're ranked number one. They're the best. Uh, mm, Still think Auburn might be
And
the best team.
you think so? Top overall, Auburn is the top overall seed right now.
When they,
Um,
I mean, Ohio State's not that good, but yeah, when they killed Ohio State like they did, that
yeah,
was, I mean,
and
and they smoked Purdue too. Like they only ended up being Purdue
yeah,
by 20, but they were
mhm,
up like a ridiculous amount at one
yeah,
point.
they they completely, um, yeah. I mean, they smoked. I was impressed by that. Purdue's not an easy team to beat, and they blew them out of the water. But I'm still gonna stick with Tennessee for now. I mean, they haven't lost. Um, but my top two are Tennessee and Auburn for sure.
Yeah. So who's the weakest one seed then? There in bracketology, Duke or Iowa State.
Okay, am I going based on
Based off of like who who would you be least afraid to see in your bracket? Auburn, Tennessee, Duke, or Iowa State?
um I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna I would have to go Duke right now. Just looking at their who's in their bracket, I mean that's awful. Um Duke, Memphis, UCLA, Illinois, Kentucky, Florida. I if
Rough
yeah,
bracket.
I'm sorry.
Memphis is playing well too.
Iowa State is a close second because I don't think Iowa State would make it past Houston. Now, if you ask me who would be beat first, I might have a different answer.
Yeah.
But the team I'm least afraid of right now is Duke because they have so many young guys who
Yeah.
haven't been there before versus all of these teams in their bracket that are more veteran guys.
I've been impressed with Cooper Flag's strength
Mm-hmm.
for how young and just not big he is. He's just very like solid. Like he bumps really well down low for a guy that reminds me more of I don't know. He's not really any different than like a Matt Hurt in terms of like
Mm-hmm.
size wise,
Mm-hmm.
but he just seems like I mean he's stronger or tougher. I don't know which one it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean he's like you said, he's been really impressive. Obviously, league play. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to require something more out of him, but I mean, this is what he signed up for, and this is what everyone was expecting, and I think that we're all pleased by what we've seen from Cooper Flag, and you know, I've said it a couple times before, but he's going to have a long future
Mm-hmm.
in this league. The question I'm waiting to answer for is what you texted me earlier: is how many teams the SEC is going to get in, and
How many SEC teams is there? 16 or 18?
I think there's 15,
15.
and right now 13 are in.
So let me look. I'm just gonna go through the net rankings right now. So Auburn, Tennessee, yep. Florida, yep. Alabama, yep. Mississippi State, yep. Kentucky, yep. Texas A&M, yeah. Oh, Georgia.
I think the
It,
only team that isn't in is South Carolina.
so you know what's hard is Georgia's 12-1,
Hmm.
and I like Georgia and Vanderbilt both 12-1, and I would
Hmm.
normally say, okay, I want to see
Right.
more from Georgia and Vanderbilt,
Hmm.
but if they don't collapse in conference, right? If they both win 7 more games to get to 19 and whatever, 19, 13 or whatever it is, um, that means that they're going to have to beat at least like 3 good teams,
Hmm.
right? Like to win 7 games, they're at some point in those 7 games, they're either going to beat Kentucky or Tennessee or somebody.
Hmm.
Um, and
Yes, correct.
it's hard to think that a team that is basically 500 in the SEC with almost 20 wins, with a win over a team probably in the top 10, like probably over a 1 or 2 seed. And probably, and I think what helps the SEC more than a big win is no bad losses, right?
Hmm.
Like
Yep.
if
Yeah.
there,
I mean, there's not a bad loss in this league.
yeah. So you're not going to get like Duke has to be on every night
Hmm.
because even though they should win those games, we all know, like, sometimes you go on the road and you're just off
Right.
and you lose.
Hmm.
And that's going to be a quad
Yep.
four.
Yep.
Like Duke could pick up two. Like, well, there's multiple opportunities to pick up a quad three or maybe even four loss in ACC because they're terrible. Like that
Hmm.
BC game at BC is a quad four.
Yep.
Whereas the SEC, the worst you're doing is a quad two, and most of it's part of quad ones.
Hmm. Yeah, I
So
mean, like the last place team in the SEC right now is South Carolina, and they're 10-3, and they have a win over Clemson.
yeah, let me see.
Like, and it's like I made a mistake. There's 16 teams in the SEC, so 13 would be in. Missouri on the bubble, so 14 teams are on the bubble or in.
So South Carolina with that nice win over Clemson. Um, Lost to Xavier, lost to an okay Indiana. Yeah, I mean
Here's my,
they need
here's my
wins.
magic number. I'm saying, quote me on this. I don't know. This is tough. I'm gonna go with my gut. I'm gonna say 12 teams are gonna get in. 4 teams are gonna be left out.
Mm, I'm gonna say because upsets tend to happen. Mm, and the ACC is so bad that there's room to be. I'm gonna say 13, but I want to say 14, only because I'm curious to see how the committee puts people in
Hmm.
that like the Mountain West teams or the Mountain Valley teams.
Right.
If um I don't know, like an Indiana State. I don't know how Indiana State is this year, but like an Indiana State type team, are
Hmm.
they going to get in because Virginia sucks,
Right.
or is Vanderbilt going to get in because Virginia sucks?
Right. And the question you have to ask yourself is like, if Vanderbilt goes 6-12 in the league and finishes 18-13 and gets one win in the SEC tournament before going 19-14, are you putting them in?
Mm-hmm.
Because say those 6 wins are against like LSU, South Carolina, uh, Georgia, but then you have a Kentucky and an Auburn win.
That's what's going to mean. Like Auburn's going to
Right,
get
like
caught by somebody, you know.
right, exactly. And it's like technically you could win 6 games, but if 2 of them are against like an Auburn or a Kentucky or an A&M or a Tennessee, like as long as as long as you beat, you know, a couple more teams, like your tickets, your ticket's punched.
And that's where these non-power teams struggle because they
Hmm.
can't pick up those wins. Even Gonzaga, right? Like they can't pick up those
Right.
wins, and teams like no people aren't going to put San Diego State on their schedule because they don't
Hmm.
want to lose.
Right. And it's like you look at it because without the Pac-12 now, right? Like the WCC is a one bid league. Uh, like all your other, mid majors are one bid leagues. Like technically, if Dayton wins the A10, that's a one bid
Mm-hmm.
league. I'm trying to think of what other kind of like mid major, but like Big East. You wonder how many teams will get
Yep.
in, and then
Yeah.
Mountain West. Like if San Diego State wins the league and Utah State kind of has a collapse, like you know who's left out or who's left in there.
Yep.
So it's definitely interesting to think about.
Yeah. The Big East. I mean, like it's possible the Big East gets two teams in.
Yeah.
Because Georgetown is I look at their who they play, but Georgetown I know record wise is much improved.
Hmm.
But they could obviously collapse
Right.
because of how bad they've been of late. And St.
Hmm.
John's, I think most people probably would guess St. John's was going to make it, but they just lost someone, right? They just lost to Creighton.
Hmm.
Um, maybe there's another game I was looking at. Oh, maybe it was the Creighton one. So they just lost to Creighton, who isn't playing that well. Um, Kind of barely beat Providence, who isn't a great
Yep.
team. Um, they lost to Georgia, lost to Baylor. I guess they're okay. Um, but I mean, the Big East and ACC are just bad. It's
Right.
like there's not St. John's doesn't have a lot of great opportunities to
Hmm.
beat. Beating Providence again, okay, all right.
Right.
Beating Seton Hall, all right.
Hmm.
Um, so it's like who are you gonna? I mean,
Yeah. Who are you gonna beat
yeah.
exactly?
Um, all right, so real quick, I think we said right what like best um, or most impressive team player of 2024. I guess of this season, right? Because I was listening to a podcast that kind of did a similar thing, but they're just talking about 2024 in general, and the
Hmm.
player they had mentioned was Zach Eady, which does go back to 2024, and I
Hmm.
think. I think Zach Eady will be remembered for a long time, and I think looking at some of
Right.
Purdue's struggles this year highlights a little bit of just
Hmm.
how important Zach Eady was.
Yep.
Um, but I think if we look at just this season of basketball starting in November,
Hmm.
um, I've been I've been impressed by Tennessee, but I wouldn't say they're the most impressive thing to me because I kind of this is kind of what we got. I mean, the past couple of years, Tennessee's been a really good team, a great defensive team, a pretty good offensive team, and they're always threatening for like a 1-2 seed.
Hmm.
Um, I think a little bit. Let me make sure I don't miss anything here. Um, I think overall Auburn's play has been impressive. Um, I think um, Kentucky, what Kentucky was able to do with just a completely new team is
Hmm.
impressive. Um, and Memphis, I mean, I wouldn't call Memphis my most impressive team, but I think that they've done some good stuff. Just on like a kind of quick look, I'd have to probably say I don't know if Auburn's my most impressive team. I would say just off the top of my head, Broom might be my
Yep.
most impressive player.
Hmm. Um. Yeah. So my most impressive player is Janai Broom from Auburn. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to be unbiased and not say Wade Taylor. Um, but it's been Janai Broom. And then my best teams of this year so far have well, of course, not Villanova, um, have been Dayton. Dayton has really impressed me. Um, Shoot, I just saw them and now I can't find them. But Dayton has impressed me. Auburn has impressed me. Michigan has impressed me, even
Yep.
though I don't like to admit it. For some reason, I have something against Michigan. And Illinois have impressed me
Yep. Yeah.
this season. My team who impressed me last year and who I think might impress me again this year will be UAB.
Okay.
I'll give them some love if they make the tournament because they took San Diego State to the wire and nobody expected that. So I'm gonna give them some love.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I think probably the A10 at this point might be one of the more impressive leagues. Or
yeah,
I'd say surprising, I guess. Maybe not impressive, but surprising.
yeah, surprise. Dayton has brought it this year, and they can compete, and they have really impressed me.
Hmm. Um, let's see what Indiana's at now. Trying to see if I missed anyone else here. Um, I mean, most of the teams we mentioned already. I think it's great that Georgetown's 11-2. Now Georgetown is 1-1 in the first two quads. They're 8-0 in quad four. So most of the teams that Georgetown has played have been bad.
Hmm.
But it's nice for the sport. Georgetown's similar to Louisville, right? Like
Right,
they're they're not playing good teams, but Louisville is 8-5. Last year they
hmm
only won 8 games.
right,
So it's like, well, that's and Georgetown has been awful.
hmm
And so under Patrick Ewing, they would have lost one of those quad four games.
right, exactly. So taking steps in the right direction. Not totally there yet, but
Yeah,
they will be.
I would. So impressive players and people. I'm going down the list a little bit. Stanford. Stanford picked up a quad four. That's no good. But Stanford is 1-1 in quad one, 1-0 in quad two.
Hmm.
I think they've been decent, and I think Jalen Blake's has been fantastic.
Playing good
Uh,
against Clemson right now.
yeah, I don't think Jalen Blake's will continue that totally.
Something
Um,
about these Duke guys once they leave.
well, no, not James Shoot.
Yeah, but Mark Mitchell, Henry Coleman, I cannot thank you enough for Henry Coleman.
I do. I liked Henry Coleman.
Oh my
Um,
God. Henry Coleman is one of those guys that no matter where he goes, you just like can't dislike.
so, how do I move this over? How do I get this? Um, I should just went ESPN. Jalen Blake's. I have no idea how many points he has right now.
He had 9.5,
But he has 11 assists right now.
11 assists.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, like but like I said, I think as he gets more and more into the season and starts playing against more athletic guys, he's not the most athletic dude in the world. Um, but still, I mean, he's been great, and I think the two freshmen from Rutgers.
Mm,
Rutgers hasn't been fantastic. They might
hmm
struggle to make the tournament. What was it? Ace Bailey and
And
Bill
Harper.
Harper. They've been the real deal. Like
Right.
sure they're playing on a bad team, but they're both. I mean, they're much better than VJ whatever. Utscum. What's
You're a hater.
hey, I know enough to know that Mr. VJ is not playing well this year.
You're a hater. He's going to be a lottery pick.
I know he is. That doesn't mean he's good at basketball right now.
VJ Edge.
He's not going to be as high of a lottery pick as he would have been if he could have gone straight to the league.
He's playing pretty well as of late.
Is he?
Yep.
All I know is
He's
he
up to,
dunked over Mark Few's son.
yes. That was a mean dunk, too. That was mean. Yes.
Um, yeah, but I mean those guys have been legit, and yeah, ACC's been bad. Um, I guess. Resolution. Give me a resolution for a team,
Any team?
any team.
Okay, I'm gonna pick a different team than I normally pick. Um, let's see. I'm just gonna look up some random team on ESPN. Let's see who's playing tonight. Um, UNC, Louisville. Okay, no, I don't want to give them a resolution. Oh, I have one.
Okay.
Okay, this is for Arkansas.
Okay.
Um, Arkansas needs to make the Sweet 16 to save John Calipari's legacy.
Did you see how close uh, Arkansas and Oakland were for a while yesterday?
I, yeah, but then they blew them
They
out.
did. They did. Yeah, his legacy, huh?
Yes.
Because I yeah, if Arkansas ends up not good these next couple of years, in my you look at the Derrick Rose. No one really talks about the Derrick Rose like SAT like controversy
Hmm.
type thing, and you got
Yeah.
the UMass controversy. You start to wonder, or people are going to start asking questions. Was John Calipari only good when he cheated?
I the past couple years he has not been good in the tournament, and I people are kind of starting to forget that Anthony Davis team,
Yep.
that DeMarcus Cousins team, all those other good
Yep.
teams in the tournament. Yeah, I think he's good if he doesn't cheat, but lately he's been god awful in the
Yep.
tournament, and I think Arkansas needs to make the Sweet 16 to save his to start to save his legacy
Well,
as a
part of
coach.
Calipari's problem is he shifted when he went one and done. He shifted his message, at least to what he told the public, was like, "I'm preparing these guys to go to the NBA." And it's like, well, that's great, but your job is to win college basketball games.
Hmm. And I think that's obviously what we're going to remember him for because he was a guy who started one and done.
Yep.
But lately, it's like what's choking in the tournament. Like he has had some squads these past couple of years, and
Hmm.
they have just rolled through the regular season and come up short.
Yeah, and like and
So
adjustments too. Like I don't know. I like how many points did Goki put up on them last year? Like it
probably
had to
like
have been at
30
least like 30
something.
or something. Like
They've lost to a 14 and a 15 seed in 2 of the past 3 years.
yeah, it's like just make an adjustment. I don't know. Like do something. You have the talent. Just do something different.
Hmm.
Um. All right. I'll give you two. Um.
It can't be for Duke.
No, I'm gonna give you one from Duke because we are a Duke podcast. Um. And I'll give you one for somebody else. My Duke resolution would be that if I was Duke doing a resolution, it would be to the way to phrase it. I mean the real something I would say keep shooting. I think Duke's resolution
Hmm.
is to keep shooting. The
Okay.
defense is coming along. I think it's just going to get better. I think they're working at it. The offense has been kind of stagnant at points,
Hmm.
but I think it's a good shooting team, and I think they
Okay.
just need to keep shooting.
Hmm.
Um, if I look at another team here, I
There
would
we go. I love to see it.
I would say um, I don't want to be too obvious with that one. Um, I would say uh, resolution for. I wanted to pick UConn, but I'm not going to pick UConn. A resolution for Arizona.
Okay.
Resolution for Arizona would be to. I don't want to. I don't want to give a Caleb Love one because I don't want to be individual. Let me go as a team here.
Hmm.
Resolution for Arizona as a team would probably. I would say my resolution for Arizona as a team is like any good resolution for anybody is to forget 2024.
Hmm.
I don't think Arizona is a bad team. I don't think
Hmm.
they're a great team.
Hmm.
Um, but I think they can still win their conference.
Hmm.
And I think they need to take a step back, resettle, and just go back to being. I think you get in a funk after a while and you start kind of questioning stuff. I think now is a new season and you
Okay.
forget the previous 12 games
Mm.
and you just play the conference as its own season.
Okay.
So I think they just need to be out of sight, out of mind.
Okay.
Um,
Makes sense.
I mean, my resolution for UConn was more. I was going to ask a question earlier about UConn, but I looked at their schedule, and I'm not sold yet on UConn. But the question was going to be: is UConn right the favorite? Right, because to win the thing, you got to dethrone the champ, right?
Right.
And
Or let someone else do it for you.
I'm starting to wonder is what was it Maui, right? That's where we live in Maui.
Hmm.
Um, was Maui just like partly a wake up call for Dan Hurley that he
Hmm.
couldn't coach in the way that he was with this team, but also just like a blip on a radar, like a team traveled a long way, and maybe without us even knowing it, maybe somebody was sick, and and we were like, oh my god, they lost 3 games, but maybe it wasn't that. Maybe UConn's still UConn, and with how motivated of a coach Dan Hurley is. I almost said good of a coach. I took it back. How
Mm.
motivated a coach Dan Hurley is. Is this a team that is going to get dramatically better by March?
I don't think dramatically better. I think that unlike past years, this Yukon team cannot rely on talent
Mhm.
alone. You know, they could in past years when they had Andre Jackson and Donovan Clingan and Cam Spencer
Mhm.
and all those other guys that they had.
Yeah.
This year they can't, and they're going to need everybody on board, and they're going to have to scrap for every single win that they can. So you wonder, like, is this going to catch up with them at some point? I don't think they're the favorite. Um, I don't know if we know the answer yet to Maui. I think we will see in conference time because if we see another multi-game collapse, we're going to say, well, this wasn't a blip on the radar because they are capable of this. And I think we're going to find the answer to that question more come conference tournament time because it's the same thing as Maui, right? You're playing 3 games in 3 days, and if you
Hmm.
can't win on your first day, that's it. And
Yeah.
I think that's when we're going to find out what the story with Maui was for UConn this year.
Yeah. All right. I'm leaving off with this statement.
Okay.
I don't have a question, but it's I don't know if there's a more important player in college. Come to tournament, I don't know if we'll look back at the season, especially if Duke wins the championship, and say, I don't know if there's a more important person on a basketball team than Malik Brown.
All right. Podcast is over. Time to clean up.
Have you been
Oh,
watching Malik
Lord.
Brown?
Yeah, but I I mean, yes, he's an important player, but the most important bench player in college basketball?
Oh, so you made it even easier for me. I was like, oh man, maybe I took it too far. You just put bench in there. Yes, I think Malik Brown is the most important bench player in all of college basketball. 100%.
Okay.
100%.
Okay, this week I'm gonna find you a bench player more important than Malik Brown.
Malik Brown, 100%. And I think, especially, he's going to stay on the bench, but Watch literally dropped three alley oops. Like,
Yeah, he only played 15
yeah,
minutes.
they threw him the ball. He probably had five alley oops. They threw him the ball three times, like perfect alley oops to a 7-2 guy, and he just didn't
Yeah.
catch the ball.
Hmm.
But he'll get there. But because he's going to keep starting, because Malik Brown is the most important bench player in all college basketball. Some might even say it's Isaiah Evans.
No.
I think it's Malik Brown, but
Oh, God. I'm gonna find you a guy more important than Malik Brown this week.
well, is Ian Jackson still coming off? He might still be coming off the bench for North
No, he's
Carolina
not. He's not in my conversation.
because he's been playing pretty well.
He has, but he's not in my conversation. I'm gonna find you somebody. Don't you worry.
All right, all right, everyone. On that note, we'll see you soon.